Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have no gum. You know when some people choose to do something wrong, and then it ruins things for everyone who wasn't doing the wrong thing? Yeah, well that's exactly what happened in Singapore, and now no one can chew gum. There were some people who decided to try and mess with the mass rapid transit system, and they used chewing gum to do it. These people ended up costing the Housing and Development Board $150,000 a year just to clean up this gum, so in 1992 they banned it. They banned all gum substances, and so anyone importing, selling, or making gum can potentially face fines or even jail time. In 2004, however, there was an exemption made for those who needed gum for therapeutic, dental, or nicotine chewing gum reasons, and those can be bought from a doctor or a pharmacist. In our number 9 spot today, we have strange cows. This law is one that was repealed in 1974 because at one point, I'm sure this made a lot of sense, but surely by 1974 and especially by now, it is just hilarious. This law is from Texas, and it stated that whoever, without the consent of the owner, shall take up, use, or milk any cow not his own, faced a $10 fine. How weirdly specific. There was a law and a specific amount of a fine set up just for milking a stranger's cow. I mean, I feel like I understand why this one is illegal, because how strange is it to milk someone else's cow? A little intrusive if you ask me, to be honest. Of course, the only reason you'd be milking someone else's cow would be to steal the milk, and that is rude to do now, but back in the day that could have had much heavier implications. Although that specific law was repealed, there is still a law in Texas that is in regards to the same sort of thing. It is still illegal to milk someone's cow without permission, but now you'll be charged with theft and trespassing instead of that flat $10 rate. Also, who wants to be the weirdo stealing milk straight from a cow? That's just strange. I don't know how you'd explain that, really. In our number 8 spot today, we have Hold It. Remind Taylor and I that we can never take a trip to Switzerland if this law really does exist, not because it's not a stunningly beautiful place and I'm sure filled with wonderful people, but because I'm not sure we could take this trip without breaking this law. Basically, if you're one of those people like Taylor who wakes up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, make sure you don't flush if you're in Switzerland and it's after 10 p.m. because this is actually considered to be contributing to noise pollution. That flushing sound might just mean that you are breaking the law. I mean, it seems a little extreme, but as someone who really values peace and quiet, I do kind of understand this one a little bit. That or toilets in Switzerland are just extremely loud and I am blissfully unaware. Can any Swiss people confirm this one? What do you do in this case? I just have a lot of questions. In our number 7 spot today, we have no fun. Since 1966 in Victoria, Australia, it has been illegal to fly a kite in a public space if it bothers someone else. You actually can't even play a game in a public space if it's gonna annoy someone else. Really hope you don't have a Karen in the neighborhood, I guess, or no jump rope for you. This was listed as a part of the Summary Offences Act, but it's crazy that this is something that came into effect as recently as 1966 and not hundreds of years ago. It just seems like such a random rule to instate. And it was way more popular to see these kinds of quote no fun laws in legislation from centuries ago. Or footloose, I guess. Anyways, all of this aside, I don't think that there are many Aussies who will be upset if you choose to fly a kite on a nice breezy day. In our number 6 spot today, we have selfie etiquette. This is one law that actually makes quite a bit of sense to me. This law comes from Sri Lanka, and it basically has to do with the etiquette that should be seen when someone is around a statue of Buddha. Of course, many people, whether local or tourists, will stop at a Buddha statue to admire it, to pay respects, to pray, and in this day and age, of course, a lot of times this comes with a selfie. Here's the thing though, regular selfie pose is a no-no for this one, and that is because turning your back to Buddha is a huge offense. You could be forced to delete the photos. I mean, who would even want the evidence of you committing this crime anyway? And if you were to refuse deleting them, things might go as far as to have the police called. There are definitely other ways, positions, and poses where you can snap a pic with the statue, but just never with your back to it. In our number 5 spot today, we have tree climbers. I feel like I should have known of this law before, especially considering the fact that it comes from just outside of Toronto in Oshawa, Ontario, but despite that, this one is news to me. Don't get too excited on your next park day in Oshawa and end up climbing a tree, because that is apparently strictly forbidden. One of the bylaws for the city says, quote, no person shall interfere with a tree or part of a tree located on municipal property, including, but not limited to, attaching, affixing, or placing upon in any matter any object or thing to a tree or part of a tree and climbing the tree. That was a long way to say that. Yeah, the law states that there is just simply no tree climbing allowed. This does again seem like a kind of footloose rule, but it is said to have been made with only safety in mind. The Canadian law discussion talked about how this law came to be and said that it was put in place to stop citizens from trying to act like Spider-Man. The city of Oshawa is just out here trying to care for the citizens and their safety. In our number 4 spot today, we have royal fish. This is one law that came into existence because someone was feeling a little greedy. Since 1324, it has been decreed that all beached whales in the UK belong to the king or queen, and we can all thank Edward II for this one. In 1324, he passed a law defining whales, sturgeons, dolphins, and porpoises caught within 5 kilometers of the shore as, quote, royal fish. These fish collected a lot of money in medieval markets, and those who were wealthy wanted these fish for their special feasts and their banquets. So of course, instead of purchasing them with your riches, what else would you do? Well, you just make up a law so that you can steal them, of course. What's even crazier is that this law actually hasn't been repealed, and in 2014 there was a fisherman who caught a 10-foot sturgeon near Wales, and he actually had to ask Queen Elizabeth's permission to sell it. Apparently, she told him that he could use the catch, quote, as he saw fit. In our number 3 spot today, we have the light bulb moment. Another Victoria, Australia law. Apparently, it is illegal to change a light bulb. At first, I thought it was a little insane, but basically, you just need a valid license to do so, which means only certified electricians are allowed to change them. It is a little extreme and probably really inconvenient, but I think that playing this one on the safe side can't be ridiculed too much. Electricity could be a pretty terrifying thing, especially when you don't really know what you're doing. For sure, not the most difficult task an electrician faces, but hey, it's gotta be done. I just have to ask though, what happens if your light goes out on like a Saturday or a Sunday? Do you have to pay premium light bulb changing prices? How much does the light bulb change cost in the first place? Who supplies the light bulbs? I don't know, I've just got a lot of questions. In our number 2 spot today, we have walking time. Dogs everywhere, rejoice, this one is for you. If you live in Turin, Italy and have a dog, you better be prepared to get your steps in, because taking your dog for any less than 3 walks a day is considered a crime. This one makes a lot of sense considering how many neglectful dog owners are out there, and I am totally on board with holding these people accountable. Not getting outside for 3 walks a day could land you a fine of 500 euros. Italy is known as an animal-loving nation, and they actually have a few other laws in place to protect animals, including strays. If you're planning on or already live in Italy, this law is definitely something to consider before getting a beloved furry friend. Honestly, even outside of Italy, this is something that every dog owner should get in the habit of practicing, under the threat of fine or not. In our number 1 spot today, we have birthday rules. This is a law that I can surely get behind. In Samoa, it is illegal to forget your wife's birthday. I've always agreed that this should in fact be a crime. Should you happen to be forgetful and end up missing this day, you are required to compensate your wife for doing so, and if your wife was feeling extra spiteful and decided to perhaps complain to the police, you might even have to answer to the law. Definitely one of the more extreme and surprising laws on this list, but I'm sure the wives are happy. I guess here it's definitely good practice to keep your wife as happy as possible, or else, who knows, she might just go end up complaining about it to the police.
Number 10. This is a YouTuber with over 200,000 subscribers, but she's no longer posting videos because she got in a lot of trouble with the law, but apparently she shot a video moments before she was arrested. She was taken into custody after police were called to investigate a domestic disturbance. It was later revealed that she actually pointed a handgun at her boyfriend and told him to get out of her house. Once the police arrived, she was in a standoff with them for over 6 hours, and she refused to let them have her son. She was eventually charged with child neglect and aggravated assault. I mean, is this real life right now? That's a pretty intense rap sheet, and I bet she's having some serious regret about owning a handgun. And now things get really weird at number 9, because we have a YouTuber who was arrested for giving people unwanted wedgies. Well, I don't know anyone who actually wants to get wedgied, and is it just me, or does the word wedgie has just lost all its meaning? Anyways, Charles Ross was actually arrested for battery back in 2013 because he was caught giving strangers wedgies outside of the movie theater. Watch this.
Like, give strangers wedgies. It sounds funny, but it's not once you're the one being given the wedgie.
Battery is a serious thing to have on your permanent record, but despite being arrested, he still continues to pull off some pretty gross pranks like kissing girls when they're with their boyfriends or by touching strangers inappropriately as they walk by. I think this guy needs a prank intervention. Okay, Steve-O breaks onto this list on number 8. We all know Steve-O from the Jackass movie, right? Well, as you guys can probably guess, we're about to see something insane.
We got lots of fire trucks, tons of cops, and we got Shammy. Should I light the artillery shells? The helicopter's not that close, right? Woo! This is f***ing chaos!
So this video was filmed filmed back in 2015 when Steve-O climbed onto a construction crane and protested against SeaWorld. Even though this prank is super epic, it's also super dangerous and highly illegal. He was arrested and convicted on 2 counts of misdemeanors, and he was sentenced to 30 days in prison and 36 months of probation. Brandon Carter flexes his way onto this list at number 7. Brandon Carter runs a fitness channel on YouTube where he posts a bunch of free workout and weightlifting videos. He has over 750,000 subscribers, and he's still really active here on YouTube. Well, back in 2017, he was arrested in Austin, Texas for staging a fight with another YouTuber. The two of them planned to get into a fake fight, and then they were gonna break out into a dance. However, when the police saw this fight break out, they tackled the 2 men to the ground because they didn't know that it was staged. They just saw 2 men fighting. So Brandon Carter was actually arrested because he was resisting arrest. And to make things even worse, Brandon Carter remained in jail for 3 months, and no one even knows why. White Boy 7th Street rolls onto this list at number 6. He is a famous YouTuber with over 2.5 million subscribers who streams video games. But sadly for him, he was a victim of swatting. For those of you guys who don't know what swatting is, it became like a big trend thing. It's stupid. Swatting is when someone prank calls emergency services so that a huge number of police officers will come to the person's house. Well, someone called the police and said that White Boy 7th Street was armed with a gun and he was highly suicidal. So the SWAT team broke down his door, and when they discovered that someone did this for a prank, they then noticed that there was a little bit of weed on the table, so they decided to book him for marijuana possession with the intent to sell. So yeah, that kind of sucks, and this was all captured while he was streaming live. I mean, talk about bad luck. Well, as it turns out, the police dropped the charges, which is good for him, but now his mugshot is splattered all over the internet for the world to see.
I still remember the bald police officer with the assault rifle.
Up next, and at number 5, we have a YouTuber accused of being a child predator. Jinbop was arrested by federal officials after he was caught engaging in a really inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old fan. He even lured this 15-year-old to travel to him so they can engage in a sexual misconduct. During the investigation, they discovered that this relationship was going on for several months before he was caught. To top it all off, he was also charged with producing and receiving child pornography. I mean, this guy is disgusting, so let's move on. Vitaly streaks his way onto this list, and at number 4. Vitaly isn't a guy who is scared of getting arrested. We've talked about him many times. Anyone who has seen his YouTube channel knows that. He is a guy that does insane pranks for views, but a lot of the times his pranks ends up getting him a lot of trouble with the law. There was one instance of him getting caught after he climbed onto the iconic Hollywood sign, and he waved a sign that said, "I'm back."
We begin with breaking news. A man has climbed the Hollywood sign. Good evening, I'm Micah Ullman.
And I'm Cher Calvin. We've seen him waving a white flag that says, "I'm back." There it is. Tim Lin is overhead in Sky 5 with these live pictures. Tim.
And then there was that crazy time where he ran onto the basketball court, and this is during the NBA Finals game. Insane. Oh, and let's not forget about the time where he ran onto the field during the World Cup Finals match. You would think that all of his shrieking and running pranks, he would be a lot faster, but he keeps getting caught. He is fast though. Maybe if he worked on some speed and endurance, he could make longer videos. You gotta get that audience retention time up. Or I guess, he could just stop doing these types of things, stop getting arrested, but he thrives off of it. And of course this list wouldn't be complete with an appearance from Sam Pepper himself. Well, he's coming into this list at number 3. I think it's safe to say that we all know who Sam Pepper is by now. He's that guy who infamously was on YouTube for his inappropriate pranks. You know, the pranks where he goes around grabbing women, flashing people, or convincing women to kiss him. A lot of people in the YouTube community hate him because of his disrespectful pranks, and he has a pretty bad reputation. So back in 2014, an 18-year-old woman made a police report in LA against Sam Pepper, saying that he sexually violated her. I guess there wasn't enough evidence to arrest him, but by judging some of his videos posted on YouTube, it's obvious that he has broken the law several times.
Oh.
Thanks things get extremely serious in at number 2 with YouTuber Matthew Cordell. This next story is going to send chills down your spine. Matthew Cordell used to run a YouTube channel called Because I Said I Would. He wasn't that popular on YouTube, but his story caused him to be infamously known all over the world. Well, one night he was super drunk. He recorded himself confessing to killing a man. And this confession happened while he was driving drunk.
Completely blacked out and decided to try to drive home. I ended up going the wrong way down the highway, directly into oncoming traffic, and I struck a car. I killed a man.
He was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison, and obviously he lost his driving privileges forever. And my question is, who the heck did this guy kill? And did they actually confirm that? Breaking the law in at number 1, we're talking about Trey Sessler.
Oh, how you doing, everyone? It's Mr. Anime. Or you can call me Trey. You can call me the guy that does the video game reviews, or you can call me the guy that does all the gun stuff now.
He used to be known for his YouTube channel called Lens Cap Productions, but now he is known as a mass murderer. He used to upload a ton of videos about anime and video games, but after he was diagnosed with an illness, he started to upload videos about mass shootings, and then he started to use real guns in his videos, and a year before he committed the murders, he prepared himself by using his family's pets as target practice. But things get even more disturbing. After the murders, Trey planned on going to his high school to murder at least 70 students. He was armed with an assault rifle and more than 100 rounds of ammunition. Thankfully, he decided not to go to the school and he was arrested shortly after.
With our number 10, which is Wi-Fi squatting. Have you guys ever been standing outside of a coffee place and connected to their Wi-Fi for just a few minutes? Or maybe you've been inside of that place and connected maybe while your friend is buying a drink, but you didn't buy anything yourself, and you might think you're just being a little bit cheeky, but you could actually be prosecuted for that if you get caught. Don't believe me? Well, there was one case of a man in Michigan back in 2007 who did exactly this in a parked car outside of a cafe. He was actually fined $400 and sentenced to 40 hours of community service, and he got off lightly. The maximum penalty under this law is actually $10,000 and 5 years in prison. I think that's a little bit mental. Moving on now, you probably all recognize this flag. Now, do you guys have any object in your house with it on? Well, at number 9, you could be breaking the law. According to official US code, you are not allowed to wear the flag or use it as bedding and curtains, as it's disrespectful. Maybe that's a little bit outdated, but a lot of you guys probably haven't broken that law of using an actual flag like that. Well, it does go on to say that you also can't use it for advertising or putting it on cushions or handkerchiefs or napkins or anything at all that will be thrown away afterwards. Now, although police aren't likely to arrest you these days for wiping away birthday cake with an American themed napkin, you're still technically breaking the law. Alright, at number 8 now, we have jaywalking. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with this word, jaywalking is basically crossing the road when and where you probably shouldn't, and it's illegal in almost all US states. Now, a lot of people out there seem to think that jaywalking is more of a guideline, and that if you cross the road in a place where you shouldn't, you might just get a few angry beeps from cars that are passing by. But the truth is, you're probably breaking the law. Your punishment or fine will vary from place to place, but it's best to just always cross at a safe place, just in case. Alright, moving on to number 7 now. It's having a permanent marker pen in public. Yeah, now most of you guys will own one of these things, a permanent marker, or you might call it a Sharpie, but in some places out there, if you have one of these in public and you're under the age of 18, you could be breaking the law. Now, it all comes from anti-graffiti laws that are aimed to tackle young people vandalizing public property with aerosol sprays, but because it sometimes happens with marker pens too, they just threw those into the law as well. You actually have to be accompanied by a legal guardian in some places if you have a marker pen. It's a very weird law, and there have only been a few cases of it actually being enforced, but the law is the law. No marker pens for teenagers in public. Next up at number 6, we've got insulting royalty. Now, this might sound like a law from medieval times, but in many European countries, if you're caught insulting the head of a state, you could find yourself in prison. It all comes under an old law called lèse majesté that has become more relaxed over the years, but there's still examples of it being enforced. In 2005, a journalist in Poland was sentenced for insulting the Pope, and then a human rights activist was charged with insulting Vladimir Putin. But it's nothing, absolutely nothing compared to Thailand, who have actually charged 53 people under the lèse majesté since 2014. 40 of those were from online comments that people wrote. In fact, one man got 60 years in prison for making comments about the Thai royal family. In this day and age, many of us just make casual jokes about kings and queens, but just be careful who is listening or who is reading them online, because it might just land you in jail. I was going to make a joke at the end of this one, but I don't want to go to prison. Coming in at number 5 now, we have swearing on the phone. Now, in a number of US states, there is a law that says over the telephone it is illegal to use any kind of obscene, vulgar, profane, or indecent language to another person that you're talking to. In the US state of Virginia, this law was actually put into practice in 2014 when a man rang the office of an attorney general that he wasn't happy with. He reached the answer phone and proceeded to leave a whole message full of curse words and swearing, which actually landed him a $250 fine after pleading guilty to the misdemeanor. Now, we all get mad at people over the phone and sometimes swear at them, but depending on where you are, it might be best to watch your tongue if you don't want a nasty run-in with the law. Alright, moving on to number 4 now. We've got writing something disturbing. Just that. Now, in some US states, if you write a horrific, violent, or just plain creepy story, you could find yourself breaking the law. Some places class this kind of writing as disorderly conduct. In Illinois, for example, if you write something that disturbs the person who's reading it, whether or not you actually published it, the maximum penalty is 30 days in jail and a whopping $1,500 fine. That means if I grew up there as a teenager, most of the stuff that I wrote would probably have got me a month in a cell. I wrote some pretty lame, teenage, angsty rubbish. Alright, coming in at number 3 now, we have betting with friends. Most of us make small bets with our friends on the outcomes of, sporting events. $10 here, $20 there, and some people might even wager thousands on these bets. Now, you guys might think that's just being irresponsible, it's not too bad, but it's technically illegal in some places. In Virginia, if you or your friends bet more than $2,000 in one day, you're classed as running an illegal gambling operation. In fact, in 2006, one man was even shot and killed by a SWAT team for doing this after betting over $2,000 on a football game. They later had to pay the victim's family $2 million because that was obviously ridiculous, but it's still a scary thought that one minute you can be considered a bit of a money risk taker looking for a thrill, no harm, it's all, just a bit of fun, and the next, you're basically Al Capone. Okay, moving on to number 2 now. We've got snowball fights. Yes, this law comes from Aspen in Colorado, with a law that states it is unlawful to throw stones or objects or fire guns in public or at a person in public. That seems fair, right? Yeah. But they also added snowballs. You are actually breaking the law if you throw a big fat snowball at your friend in the park. It seems like this law was brought in to stop people from actually throwing solid ice at another person and then being like, oh no, it was just a snowball. But the truth is, it's pretty hard to define where a snowball ends and a big lump of ice begins. If a police officer in Aspen thinks your snowball has crossed that line, they can slap you with a fine. Now, I hope this law doesn't apply in other places out there, because snowball fights are probably the only good thing about winter. Am I right? Like, don't take that away from us. Finally, at number 1, we have a law that some of you guys might be breaking right now as you watch this: the Google account age. If you have a YouTube account, then you will have had to agree to their terms and conditions that you are at least 13 years old. Great, if you are 13 or older, then that's fine. But if you're not and you have an account that you can comment on this video with, you're technically breaking the law. In the US, companies like YouTube and Facebook have to obey the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, which means no children under the age of 13 are allowed to sign up for websites that require personal information, just like this one. So if you're under 13, then well, I guess you can stay. I won't tell anyone, but you have to subscribe. I mean, if you want, obviously. It's completely optional, not bribing or threatening you. Or am I? No, I'm honestly not. Don't worry.
Kicking off the list at number 10. pedestrian crossing. Okay, I see this far too often in the city. People just walking across the street whenever they want. They do a little wave, a little smile, and then they just jaywalk right in the middle of like a highway. Everybody's slamming the brakes, and old Peggy Sue is just crossing wherever is most convenient for her. It's not fair. Well, Article 40 of Beijing's traffic laws stipulates that drivers in motor vehicles can't just suddenly stop, even if it's at a crosswalk. Yeah, so if somebody's about to walk at a crosswalk, they have to wait until drivers go by. It's forbidden to stop at these crossings, and if you do so, you're risking a fine. Hopefully, just a warning. Just a warning not to stop at crosswalks. It's kind of weird. That's an odd slap on the wrist. Hey, I noticed you stopped. Don't. See ya. Number 9, never nude. Okay, how do I word this one here? We've all heard about it in some way, I'm sure. You know those websites that we visit after the sun goes down? Maybe you're scrolling through Reddit even, some random threads pop up, you're like, okay, sure, that's not what I clicked. It happens. I used to download music from the internet. The things I've seen in pop-ups alone, horrifying. I have to wash my eyes. Well, in China, the government monitors the internet, so none of the adult content really makes its way to your eyes ever, even if you wanted it to. You get what I mean? Anything scandalous is censored. Objectionable material as well, just in general, won't make it to the screen or even the book. Yeah, you can't even write about being nude because they'll toss literature right out. Only think dirty thoughts, don't say them. Number 8, born this place. The hukou system is an interesting one. When you're raised in a small town, you can't wait to grow up and move. Maybe it's the city life for you that you yearn for. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you're sick of hearing trains go by every morning and you want to head to the country and hear some crickets. Having the choice to visit and move back and forth, rent out these places, that's a privilege. Depending on where you were born in China, you may be limited to the areas that you can and can't move to. You might literally be stuck living in the country. The government monitors every single citizen, so if you spend more than 3 days away from your residence, you have to register for a temporary residential permit. They have the system in place so that residents can't just all migrate at the same time to cities and then cause a food shortage. Number 7, family time. Chinese culture centers heavily around respecting your elders. That's a huge element. And really, we need to enforce that everywhere, if I'm being honest. That's a great law. Yeah, I said law. Back in 2013, China introduced an elderly rights law, meaning they're not being neglected anymore. You don't visit Gam Gam, well, you're going to the slammer. Loneliness among the elderly is a major issue, so companies will even allow time off to visit your parents. My heart feels warm knowing this, honestly. My first job was at a retirement home and I used to love it. I used to keep my headphones out, I used to talk to all the old ladies, all the old dudes. I was like 16 years old, I was a garbage guy. I would do recycling. It was the best. I love talking to them. They're lonely. Talk to them. Adults are legally required to also stay in the loop, not just visit, shake a hand or two, and then leave. No, you have to spiritually connect with your elders in China. You can't just phone it in, literally. If you feel bad now, hit that thumbs up and go call your grandma. Number 6, unauthorized reincarnations. Yeah, this one's fun. China's authorities created a law so Buddhist monks can't be reincarnated there without legal permission, of course. Always gotta get legal permission, even to reincarnate. The State Administration for Religious Affairs believes that this was an important step that they had to take. This was put in place to limit the power of the Dalai Lama. So 2 separate Dalai Lamas might be chosen in the future. Yeah, like Captain America, different timelines. This is insane, hear me out. Beijing's view of the current Dalai Lama, the 14th, he's now 86 years old, and he said that when he was 90, he would make the choice whether or not he would be reincarnated, which could end a role that's been in Tibet Buddhism for over 600 years. So yeah, like I said, it's a big deal. That's where laws come in play and make this whole process tricky. The government, they're trying to limit the power of the Dalai Lama since he's been living in exile in India since the late 50s. So we could have Beijing's approved Dalai Lama that was, reincarnated, and the one identified by Buddhist monks. 2 different ones. So if you're planning a reincarnation anytime soon, well, you better get approval from China first. The people of Tibet are very unlikely to accept a Chinese Communist Party appointed Dalai Lama. Number 5, work friends. This next one's a little lighter, and honestly, if this rule was in place over here right now, well, a lot of my friends wouldn't have jobs. You can't date coworkers in China. Yeah, and what's even better than that is that if you date somebody, sometimes your work will assess who you're dating, like outside of the field, and then they have to approve of them. That's amazing. This internet company in China, their dating rule in the workplace got leaked. And let me read some of these rules out, and then let's see if we agree here. Rule 42, males who have been employed for less than a year and females who have been employed for less than 3 months are prohibited from finding a boyfriend or girlfriend in the company. Okay, you gotta bust some tables first. Rule 43, female employees who have found a boyfriend outside the company and have decided to have relations with him must take the initiative to tell their superior. Only if the relationship is fitting for the company can she then continue to be employed, and those who fail to report are directly expelled. So if you worked for Pepsi, Carol from Coca-Cola's accounting would be a no-go. Get what I'm saying? Rule 44, male employees under 25 are restricted from finding a girlfriend in the company. Hashtag grow up. Rule 46, frequently changing boyfriends and girlfriends within the company is prohibited. Those who have changed more than 3 times will be permanently expelled. So choose wisely. Number 4, one-child policy. Immediately darker. This one was phased out recently, but I have to bring it up. Introduced in 1979, the Chinese government made this rule where a majority of couples could only have 1 child. This was done to control population growth, but of course, from a human rights point of view, things got a little dicey. See, come 2015, things didn't magically change, it just switched to a 2-child limit. And then finally, come 2021, it's completely phased out. The government saw this plan as a way to keep things running smooth, but in doing so, they reduced the fertility rate. And there ended up being a labor shortage because seniors needed those kids, as in the only one of those kids, to take care of them. No one was left to work, see what I mean? As per point number 7. Number 3, tickets please. Medical systems are different everywhere, and in China, having that many people, things have to run smoothly. It's a must. There's more often than not a wait line for most commodities. They have something called healthcare tickets over there. Honestly, I kind of agree with this. I'm pretty on board. If you're looking to see a doctor, you gotta buy a ticket first. Like a movie, a really slow, boring, coughing a lot movie. You can buy these tickets like you would movie theaters, through an app or through a website, whatever works best. Because if you don't have a ticket, it would be an extremely long wait time just to see a doctor and talk and then plan something. After they bought a ticket, patients can register it to a specific doctor that fits their needs, rather than wait in a room full of sick people all going to the same person, that slow process that I'm used to over here in Canada. This way, patients in China can just go specifically to the doctor that they need, rather than get referred over and over and over again and wait in these long lines. Do you agree with this fast pass system? Sound off below. Number 2, busking. Here in Toronto, we have Busker Fest. It's amazing. My friends perform in it. It's loud, it's full of energy. It's an outdoor variety show. If you've been to any major city, at one point you've seen a kid butchering an Ed Sheeran song. That's busking. Buskers are common, and in Hong Kong, they're really not. You're not allowed to whip out a banjo, throw down a hat on the sidewalk, and start improvising with locals. It's an offense to play any musical instrument in the streets. So keep that tromboning to yourself. And finally, number 1, banned. To cap this list off on laws you didn't know about, I figured I'd just rapid fire a few things that are banned in China. All their favorite things. Most of them are websites. Google is a no-go, YouTube as well, so you won't find my face over there. And speaking of face, Facebook too is banned, which honestly isn't really a total loss. Reddit is not allowed, so say goodbye to your late night scrolling. Netflix too is blocked, so no more binging and Netflix and chilling. Wikipedia, blocked. Zoom was blocked for a hot minute. Messenger, of course, being part of Facebook, or I mean Meta, is blocked. So if you wanted to block somebody, you couldn't because Messenger was blocked. I'm saying block a lot. We're all blocked. No more local rappers as well spitting bars on your newsfeed either because SoundCloud has been blocked for 8 years. I'm on board with this one. This one's fine. Until podcasts came out, we're like, okay, drop those. When we're done with scripts here, we toss them in Dropbox. I'll never take Dropbox for granted again because over there it's blocked. Imgur has been blocked for a couple years now too, so no more GIFs. GIFs? GIFs. GIFs. Definitely GIFs.
Starting off this countdown, we have the weight. In 2008, a law was introduced which made it mandatory for citizens between the ages of 40 to 74 to have their waists measured regularly. Women can only be 35.4 inches and men can only be 33.5 inches. If you are found bigger than that, then you have to lose weight according to this law. Not only that, but you might even be subjected to fines. I mean, Japan is known for their low obesity rates, and this is one of the factors as to why. In our 9th spot today, we have the ice cream. Now this is a very bizarre law. Basically, it's illegal to put ice cream in mailboxes. First off, who in their right mind would even think to do something like that? Like, I'm done with this ice cream, where should I put it? The garbage? No, the mailbox. So this law was implemented after a postal service worker put a chocolate ice cream in the mailbox in 2006. Since then, it's been made illegal and offenders are subjected to a hefty fine. You could be imprisoned for up to 5 years or be fined around 4,000 USD. In our 8th spot today, we have your neighbor's mail. Now, I'm sure this has happened to you at least once. But you go home, you check your mail, then you realize that the envelope has your neighbor's name on it. Oops, The mailman delivered your neighbor's mail to your address, so you're like, no problem, I'll just walk to their house and pop it in their mailbox. Boom, wrong, no, arrested. In Japan, it's illegal to hand your neighbors misaddressed mail to them. This is featured in Article 42 of the Postal Law. Basically, they have this in place to protect the privacy of both the sender and recipient. So if any mail that's not yours accidentally gets in your mailbox, you have to send it back to the post office and then they handle it. Which seems like a lot of work when they literally live next door to you, but sorry, that's just how the law is. In our 7th spot today, we have the divorce law. This is another pretty wild law. So if you're a woman and you get divorced by law, you have to wait 6 months before remarrying again. And if you give birth to a child during those 6 months, the child is legally your ex-husband's. As for men, well, they can just remarry instantly. Now, there actually is somewhat a reasonable explanation behind this, somewhat. So let's say the woman does remarry instantly after divorce, and then she finds out, oh no, I'm pregnant. Well, how would she know who the father is? So the 6-month rule is in place so that it's going to be clear who the kid's father is. In 2016, the law was amended. Now the law is women can remarry immediately after divorce as long as they aren't pregnant. If they are, then they have to wait 100 days to remarry. And a child born within 300 days of divorce is still legally considered the child of the original husband, even if it's not his. In our 6th spot today, we have the married couple. Now, most married couples do live together, but in Japan, they must. It's illegal for married couples to live separately unless they have a just cause. Now, why is this a law, you may ask? Well, it was passed to prevent divorce rates from spiking. If you're living away from your partner, the separation might take a toll on your relationship. But like I said, most couples do live together after marriage, so it's not that big of a law. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with indecent exposure. In Japan, it's illegal to expose your thighs or your bum in public. The law was passed in 1948 under the Light Crimes Act. However, this law is rarely enforced, and most women still like to wear miniskirts in public. But if the cops are really out looking for people, then you could be arrested and put in jail for up to 29 days. While we're on the topic of legs, crossing your legs in Japan is considered very casual and improper. In Japan, you are expected to sit tall with both feet on the floor and never cross your ankles over your knee. But don't worry, there's no law surrounding this, so you won't be arrested for accidentally crossing over your legs. It's more so a manner thing, you know, it just can be perceived as rude. In our 4th spot today, we have smoking. Now, most people smoke outdoors and think that's the proper place to smoke. Well, not in Japan. Outdoor smoking is actually banned in Japan. The only place you can smoke outdoors is in designated smoking areas. But smoking is prohibited on the main streets. If you want to smoke, it has to be in these designated areas. They do this to be courteous of the people who don't wish to partake in smoking. What else might surprise you is that many restaurants and bars let you smoke inside. In our 3rd spot today, we have drinking. In Japan, you are allowed to drink in public. It's one of the few countries where it's fine to walk around with a beer in hand. In fact, they even have vending machines that sell alcoholic beverages in public. That being said, if you're hammered walking around the streets and being rowdy, you can be arrested. That's a no-no. Plus, drinking is usually an evening activity, so it's frowned upon if people see you walking around with a drink at like 10 in the morning. Moving on to number 2, we have the walkie-talkies. Okay, so you're planning your trip to Japan. You got your essentials, you got your underwear, your toothbrush, your toothpaste. Did you bring your walkie-talkie? Now I know what you're thinking. Who would want to bring a walkie-talkie with them to Japan? Don't ask me, maybe you have kids that get lost easily and it's too expensive to have an international phone plan. Well, if you're planning to bring walkie-talkies, think again. It is illegal to own walkie-talkies bought from another country. Now, this actually has a really good reason behind it. Japan relies heavily on their radio network to relay important information. Any foreign walkie-talkies can possibly interfere with their signals, so they made them illegal. If you're caught with one, you can face 1 year in prison with fines up to around 9,000 USD. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the dancing. For the longest time, dancing at public venues was illegal. That's right, dancing was illegal. The only place you could dance was at venues with a special dancing license, and you could only dance until midnight. It was illegal as soon as it struck 12. They did this in 1948 as a way to try and get rid of prostitution in these dance halls. Just recently they changed the laws so you can dance after midnight, but the venue has to keep their lights on. So as soon as it's midnight in Japan, the lights turn on if you want to keep dancing. If venues don't follow this law, they could get in serious trouble. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below where you are from. Do I have any viewers from Japan here? If so, let me know about these laws. I'm actually fascinated.
Starting us off, number 10 with bouncing a check. It is illegal to write a check that will bounce even if you did it by accident. You will face criminal and civil charges, and after you serve your jail time, you will not be able to leave the country until funds have been paid in full. Importing pork or porn comes into number 9. Yes, that's right. Bringing in your beef jerky or a Playboy magazine is very illegal. Even if it's videos or books or magazines, it will be confiscated and you can face some pretty serious penalties. I'm not sure why you would need to pack, porn when you're on a trip, but I guess this happens a lot. So keep your bacon at home and your magazines under your bed and away from mom. Sorry moms out there if you're watching this. Number 8 brings us to staying in a hotel if you're under 18. For those of you who are under 18 years old and wanting to travel to Dubai with your friends, think again. It is illegal to stay in a hotel if you're under the age of 18 unless you're accompanied by an adult. According to the UAE law, you have to be 21 years old in order to check into hotels. Social media and photography comes into number 7. Taking pictures of certain government and military buildings is strictly prohibited. You also shouldn't take pictures of people without their permission. Some men have been arrested for taking pictures of women on the beach. I mean, that is just so stupid. What, are you taking a naked picture of a woman or her in her bikini? You're invading her privacy. If you're caught taking a picture in a restricted area, it can actually result in you going to jail for 1 to 3 months, and you can face up a fine of $1,400. Now that is one expensive picture. Up next, number 6, we have smoking electronic cigarettes. Are you guys trying to quit smoking? Well, don't take your e-cigarettes to Dubai, because if you're caught with one, you are breaking the law and it will be confiscated and you can face a penalty. If you attempt to bring them into the country, your e-cigarettes will be confiscated at customs. You can't even bring it into the country. So figure out another way to quit smoking, guys. Okay, so cross-dressing comes into number 5. Over here in the Western Hemisphere, cross-dressing is a common thing because people are more liberal. However, in the United Arab Emirates, cross-dressing is considered as a violation of the law and it will not be tolerated. Anyone who is found cross-dressing will face charges and possible jail time. A man was arrested and put into jail for 1 month after he was caught wearing a dress in public. So it's no joke over there, but it should be accepted. I mean, why can't you just be who you want to be? Guzzling its way in number 4, we have being drunk. Dubai is extremely strict about being drunk in public, and they have a zero tolerance for drinking and driving. Tourists are permitted to drink in licensed restaurants, hotels, and bars, but it is against the law to drink in public places such as the beach. You even need a license to buy booze. Being drunk in public can lead you to 6 months in jail and some hefty fines. So just be careful when you leave the bar, because a lot of the police are undercover and they will catch you, even if you're just a little bit tipsy. Relationships outside of marriage sneak into number 3. All sex outside of marriage is illegal. If the United Arab Emirates authorities find out that you're having sex outside of marriage, you will run the risk of prosecution, imprisonment, fine, and deportation. It is against the law to live together or even share the same hotel room with someone of the opposite sex if you are not married. Showing the middle finger comes into number 2. Swearing and making rude gestures are considered criminal acts in the UAE, and you could face serious penalties if you're caught. Giving someone the middle finger is considered rude and totally unacceptable and illegal. In 2010, a 56-year-old man from Britain was arrested for giving someone the middle finger. The government took away his passport for 8 months while he was waiting his trial. If you were caught flipping the bird, you could face a jail sentence of up to 6 months and deportation. So just keep your fists closed like Arthur does. And finally, number 1, we have public displays of affection. Yep, that's right, hugging or kissing in public is illegal in Dubai. Even holding hands is socially unacceptable, and many people have been arrested for showing public displays of affection. Back in 2010, a British couple made international news after they were arrested for kissing in public. The local police said that this is a violation of the country's decency laws. Apparently this kiss was a little peck on the cheek, and they were sentenced sentenced to a month in jail before being deported. Is this real life right now? Totally insane. Why can't everyone just love each other in public? So if you guys are traveling to Dubai, keep your hands and lips to yourselves.
Coming in at number 10, we have ice cream in your back pocket. In New York, it is technically illegal for you to walk around with an ice cream cone hanging out of your back pocket. The strange reason for this is that before there were cars in New York, horse thieves would try and lure horses away from their owners with, you guessed it, the ice cream in their back pocket. This was then outlawed, but they never really got rid of that law, which means this could be one sticky, messy way for you to technically break the law. At number 9 now, we have the elevator law. Also in New York, there is a law that states you are required to talk to no one and fold your hands while looking towards the door, like this. That's right, you guys might have thought that people don't talk to each other in an elevator because it's an enclosed space and it's kind of awkward, but in New York it might just be because it's actually illegal. If you ever do visit New York, I'd say you're probably safe to break this one. For number 8 now, we have carrying a plank. In London, it is illegal for a person to carry a plank of wood down the road. This is obviously ridiculous because people need planks of wood to build all kinds of things. There would be hundreds and hundreds of arrests every single day. I wouldn't worry about getting in trouble for this one. This law also says you can't play annoying games in the snow. So yeah, don't take it too seriously. Next up at number 7 now, we have beating a rug. This is another one from the UK, from the Metropolitan Police Act of 1839, that says it is an offence for any person to beat or shake a carpet or a rug into the road, like that. Now obviously this law is from a time when everyone would actually beat their rugs out in the street to clean them, which could cause a lot of dust. These days though, nobody really does that, although this law still stands. Very weird. Coming in at number 6 now, we have stepping on money. That's right, in Thailand, the king there is respected so much that it's considered an offence to stand on the money that bears his face. You're also not supposed to put money in your back pocket either, because then you would be sitting on his face. Yeah, this is a law that a lot of people who aren't from Thailand would probably break without even realising it, but now you know. What do you guys think of this one? Coming in at number 5 now, we have being drunk in a pub. Yeah, this one comes from the UK, where there is an old law dating back to 1872 that states the landlord of a pub cannot allow drunkenness in their pub. Now, seeing as pubs are known for serving alcohol to people, there's probably going to be some drunk people. However, I think this law would only come into effect if someone was being drunk and disorderly. So if you are old enough to drink and you're in the UK, there's a strange law that you can definitely break. Next up at number 4 now, we have confetti. In Mobile, Alabama, it is illegal to own and use confetti or spray silly string. This is a totally legit law that comes under code 1965 section 39 to 77. Look it up yourself. Now, despite this, I severely doubt you would get into any trouble if you headed down to Mobile, Alabama and just threw some confetti in the air. I think the cops there probably have better things to do than stop confetti throwing. At least I really hope they do. At number 3 now, upside down stamp. In the UK, it is considered an act of treason to place a postage stamp with the king or queen's head upside down onto an envelope. Now this comes from a time when the UK took the whole monarch thing a bit too seriously, but the law has never got changed since. Just to remind you guys, treason is also what spies get charged with. So if you do the whole upside down stamp thing, you're kind of as bad as a spy. Kind of. At number 2 now, we have fake online accounts. Now a lot of people don't realise, but making a fake online account of a person could be a criminal offence if the fake account harms their reputation. So you might think it's funny to make a fake Tinder profile for your friend that says they're only looking for people who will let them lick their dog, but you may be breaking the law if your friend then claims you damaged their reputation. The law around this whole thing is quite hazy, but people have been prosecuted before, so it's probably best to stay clear of it. And finally at number 1 now, we have connecting to open Wi-Fi. Have you ever connected to a Wi-Fi network that had no password? Feels pretty good, doesn't it? Most of the time, the network owner left it open for a reason and they don't mind you connecting, but other times they don't want you to, and you could be breaking the law. In 2007, a Michigan man was fined for repeatedly using a cafe's Wi-Fi hotspot without ever buying anything from them. People in the UK and Singapore have also been fined for using other people's open Wi-Fi without their permission.